Isn't that something?
Good morning. Joining us now, Chris Finch, head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves. This happens thanks to Prize Picks and Second Harvest Heartland and ended wins. So call Lonnie here at iHeart and scoop up Vikes Bites before it's too late. Chris joins us now from Utah. Coach, good morning. And I'm assuming you probably didn't ski yesterday at Park City because of the knee, right?
Good morning, Peter. Yeah, no, skiing's never really been something that I've done a lot. Growing up playing basketball, was not encouraged to go skiing.
And back in our day, speaking of skiing, Jim McKay. Remember Jim McKay narrating ABC's Wide World of Sports and the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, and then the ski jump guy who just got waxed. I mean that kind of soured me on the slopes at a young age. What about you?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I remember that very well, actually.
And Chris Schenkel doing bowling for dollars. Remember that?
Oh yeah. Now you're making me feel old.
I'm older than you. With your conference, it's. I mean, maybe for you because you're right in this battle. It's been like this for quite some time, but it's kind of starting to feel like the West has some bloodbath to it. I mean, you guys, Houston, San Antonio, Denver, OKC. Phoenix, I mean, Phoenix may not be as good as the aforementioned five, but what a physical, tough team that is. It's just a tough quintet there in the West, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, we knew it was going to be like this. It's seemingly harder and deeper every year. And I think we're seeing it play out on a nightly basis. And great games, hard fought games, close games. Anybody can beat anybody, kind of just tussling around with each other right now. And, I think whoever's going to be able to catch a little bit of a rhythm. But it's, I don't see anyone really separating themselves, like, throughout the course of the rest of the season. I just think it's going to be, like, one-game margins.
Is this like a normal part of the season or, midway point, approaching All-Star break, approaching trade deadline? I mean, are like conversations and like attitudes different, bodies and minds a little tired?
Oh, no doubt. There's a lot of factors here at this point in the season. You do have, we're halfway through the season or a little bit more in terms of games played, but we have another, 10 games or so before the All-Star break. You got the trade deadline coming up, as you mentioned. That certainly will play with players' minds. And some people are more affected by that than others, and injuries and just a lot mid-season funkiness. There's a lot of things that we got to fight through right now. We've circled this month as a big one, just because of our schedule toughens, and we need to start playing better basketball, which we definitely have, and we looked at this as kind of the month that would set us up for what happens after All-Star break. And so far we feel like we're on track. We lost a couple tough ones over the weekend, but, those were kind of typical games that you were referencing here in the West.
With the players who, just may have some anxiety thinking that, hey, I may have to pack everything up and leave. Have you noticed over the years, Chris, that's generated more by what they hear and or see on social media or maybe from their agents or family members?
No doubt it's coming from outside sources and influences such as social media. I mean, there's a lot of things that are kind of just absolute, conjecture, or people just make believing things, referencing conversations that we know for a fact have never happened and all this kind of stuff. So, Yeah, so I would say the bulk of it is definitely from the media, social media in particular.
Do you ever have to put out fires, or do you just encourage it to go in one ear and out the other?
I mean, mostly we just encourage it to go in one ear and out the other. There's conversations. Tim does a very good job being transparent with our guys about what might be going on around them, if there is something going on around them, which
right.
Largely, these things, there really isn't much substance to them. That doesn't mean that every team's not talking to every other team and they're talking about players and whatnot, but most of it is just kind of exploratory or just, informational gathering, trying to understand the market. It's certainly not highly transactional at that phase. But Tim does a really good job of being honest with these guys. I think that really kind of helps them. But the reality is something can happen at the last moment. And so it's hard to make any certain assurances, but that's just the reality of the business.
Yeah, it's and obviously the reporters or those who are putting it out there, people will have relationships with them, so they'll know, whether the level of validity or lack thereof. And what I'm getting at, for instance, it's like, MLK Day, you got basketball from 11:30 in the morning all the way basically close to midnight. So it's a wonderful day to watch the league. And, I'm watching Dallas. I mean, just Max Christie just hitting 3 after 3, and they're at Madison Square Garden just killing the Knicks. So, after the game, not much pops. But then like this morning, in one of the tabloids, Knicks may be trading Karl Anthony Towns. Sources indicate here are 5 teams that are interested. So, I mean, you don't second guess. You don't say the guy's lying, but nevertheless, that's the stuff that happens after games, like when you get blown out and it gets a little wonky, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, and, some organizations are leakier than others, and use the media as a way to kind of test the market at times.
Great point.
I'm not saying that's what's happening in this situation. I don't know. I'm not there. I don't know.
That's a good point.
The nature of the discussions, but these are the things that you also have to guard against. And sometimes other teams will use will make up stories about other players and other trades that might be possible to try to, flush out what someone's intention might be, So
right.
It's a lot of kind of weaponizing the media right now, too, which is makes it extra hard on the player, no doubt about it.
What a world. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, weekly 9 to noon. Thanks to Prize Picks, Second Harvest Heartland, and to Harvest.org. The Jazz tonight. This Keontae George is an underrated offensive player because he's trapped in Utah. I'm wondering what you think of him, because his field goal percentage and free throw attempts have gone way up this year. He just seems like he's a stone cold scorer.
Yeah, he is. He's really come on. Will Hardy and his staff have done an outstanding job here in their development with some of their young players. You can see them starting to really round into shape. I think they're on the edge of being really competitive and good moving forward. I think they're going to most likely end up with another pretty good pick this year. Keep adding to the young core. But when you go through these rebuilds, you really only need like 1 or 2 guys to kind of really hit, and then you can build out the rest of your roster through trade or free agency with guys around it, more experienced guys.
Yeah.
And looks like they've certainly got one in him. And that happens. It's kind of the normal thing. He's come into the league so young and try to figure it out, and now everything slows down and you get stronger and you get more confidence. And once you see that you can do it over and over again, then that's when guys get really dangerous.
You guys are a little more banged up than usual right now, aren't you? With Nas and Rudy and those games Anthony missed, a little nicked up right now, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. We're going through it a bit. We're generally have been one of the healthier teams in the league over the last few years. So all credit to our performance staff. and our guys for taking care of themselves, and obviously having good fortune. So I hope that continues. But yeah, we're going through it a little bit. We got some guys a little banged up, but fortunately they don't seem to be anything of the long-term variety.
Excellent. What when Anthony doesn't play, what's different with your team's ball movement when the alpha doesn't play?
Yeah, it's just normal. You see it, I think, with most teams around the league. Our pace picks up a little bit. Certainly, I think our ball movement picks up. Our kind of our off ball movement picks up. We know we have to be a bit more of a movement team in that regard, just because Anthony has the ability to kind of pierce the defense and force people into putting 2 or 3 guys on the ball, and then that opens up kick out opportunities. But we can't rely solely just on Julius to do that. So pace picks up, ball movement picks up, opens up closeout situations that we can attack. So it's just, I think it's just it's normal. We are can be at times a pretty ISO heavy team with both Ant and Julius. They're very good at it. We try to have a good balance of ISO and movement, but when you're missing one of your better ISO players, then you got to lean on the other things that you do well.
Chris, in that Spurs game, despite his elite countryman Wembanyama going for 39, holy cow with that 39 too, Baron J had to give you 23 in a pinch. Overall, how did he do?
Outstanding. He was excellent.
Wow.
He's been really good in the minutes that he's played here in the last couple games. His activity, his presence at the rim, keeping balls alive, offensive rebounds, hustle plays, running the floor, just all the things that he already does well. That's what I love about him. Like, he just doubling down on the things that he does well that make him who he is. And from that, he's really helping us. He's gaining confidence. He's bouncy, and I've always, since day one, I've used the word fearless. He's unafraid. He's unafraid of any situation. Doesn't matter if he's guarding Giannis or guarding Wemby or someone's coming at him full speed at the rim. Like, he's going to take the challenge.
Right, and then that is specifically with teenagers, man. I'm glad you said that. He has a chance, and we don't generally get into conversations like this about super young players because so much can change, but this guy has a legitimate chance to be something special. And even casual basketball fans can tell he's not afraid of anything. It's going to be really exciting to see him grow, isn't it?
Yeah, we are so excited about him, and he's going to be. To your point, he's got a chance to be a special player, but he's going to be really good. There's no doubt about it. His versatility on defense, he really can guard in all switch situations, and we feel comfortable he can guard. Point guards and all kinds of things with his agility, his quickness, his length. He just needs to kind of keep learning. Some of the mistakes that he makes are just, youthful mistakes. That's expected and normal. And we're happy he's making them because, he learns quick, real quick. And that's the other thing about him. And someone who's come to the game late, he didn't start playing the game till about a few years ago. He's got a good feel, which is often not the case, in bigs that come to the game late. And he's got a really sharp learning curve. And that bodes well for his growth.
How 3 to go here. Thanks for the time. How much do the analytics of the NBA matter to you?
Quite a bit. I think my guiding principle on the analytics, PA, is I use them as a guide, not a god. That's kind of like our mantra. We certainly are steeped in the analytics. We follow them. We understand what they're saying and why they're saying it. But we're not blindly doing everything that they're telling us to do. And I remember having, when you introduced me to Kevin O'Connell out in LA, like, it's one thing that we quickly started talking about was just like, kind of the lens, the microscope that analytics have put coaching decisions under now,
right.
Which is hard. I think for them, we were talking specifically like about fourth down choices.
Right.
And what analytics can't do is they can't tell you the chain reaction of events that will happen or might happen or need to happen. They can predict and tell you like, hey, if you go for it on fourth down, you got an X percent chance of winning. Well, that assumes a lot in there too, So you still got to use your coaching. You got to use your feel. You got to use the knowledge of your team. Like, what are you able to accomplish? That's another thing. It's not like what the analytics say. Like, you also have to say, can we do that? Like, are we good enough to be able to pull that off, or do we have to do it some other way? So, but yeah, right now the league is so analytically driven, and there's a lot of good basketball that's come out of that if you're not playing analytically, if you're not leaning into and listening to the analytics, you're going to be behind the curve. So there's just right now there's just some baseline to it that you have to follow. And where we really try to lean into it is like in the small pieces of the game where there's still maybe inefficiencies that you can exploit. So.
All right. So and if you don't have anything, that's fine. But like top of the head, what's one analytical number or ranking with your team? Those who don't follow know exists, but they don't really know what it is, but it's impressive to you.
So let me understand. What is an analytical ranking for us that
impresses you?
That we pride ourselves on, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I'm big on shot selection. Like our effective field goal percentage and how we get to that through high quality shots. I think that's basically kind of underpins good offense. I don't think it's a hidden thing. I think it's what everybody's striving for. But what's happened, I think, in this, like the league is playing faster. There's no doubt about it. And people have taken more and more threes over the last few years. But what's interesting and what I'm finding in the analytics is that playing faster used to mean that it led to better shots. But now people are playing fast for the sake of playing fast. And some of those shot selection outcomes aren't the same. The same with threes. You used to be able, like back in the beginning of the analytics revolution, it didn't matter. Get up as many threes as you possibly can, and even if they're not good threes. And but now with everybody shooting so many threes, like the volume matters a little less and the quality matters way more. So, you can shoot a higher percentage on a better quality three rather than shooting a medium percentage on a high volume of threes. It's basically like the kind of what I see happening right now in the league. Just so it's almost like the pace of the game and the commitment to the three has kind of overextended itself a little bit, to cause a little bit of inefficiency. So dial it back. So like we want to play faster this year, but we're not a really super fast team. But because teams have gotten so good in the half-court offense, like half-court offenses have become so much more efficient in the last several years, you don't need to play breakneck speed just to get good shots any longer. And that's a credit to the coaching, the adjustment. I think a lot of it's a reaction to the high volume of switching in offense. Like just players have to play with a little bit more nuance to their game. A little bit more movement, as we talked about earlier, and also, just the skill level of the players that keeps going up and up.
That was excellent. Greatly appreciate the time early in Salt Lake City. Tear it up against those Jazz tonight, and I'll call you soon, all right?
Don't worry, I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
Yep, see ya. That's Coach Finch. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Prize Picks. If you're playing some Prize Picks today, you might want to monitor those injuries until about 3, 4, 5 o'clock for the Timberwolves. Likewise for the Utah Jazz. Thank you, Prize Picks. And thank you, Second Harvest Heartland and 2harvest.org. Likewise for Timber Tech. What's on deck 9 to noon includes former Vikings quarterback and former NFL MVP Rich Gannon joining us around the corner to chat some ball and divisional round. But first, Mad Producer has that cash thing. Good morning.
KFAN wants to give you a chance to put some bonus bucks in your pocket with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword money. You might win some with the keyword money at KFAN.com.
Alrighty, here is a longtime friend of yours truly's and former Vikings quarterback and NFL MVP with the Raiders, elite analyst for Sirius XM. He's Rich Gannon, and former MVP joins us now. MVP, let me ask you this question: How do you always get out of going to the Indianapolis Scouting Combine, which is quickly approaching? And good morning.
Good morning. Truth be told, and I did it for years, and then, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago, I just decided that in order to do it the right way, PA, and really to cover the draft, you've got to be all in. You can't just watch the quarterbacks. You can't study the top 10 quarterbacks. You got to do it all. You got to look at the offensive linemen, the secondary, the tight ends, the kids from Saginaw State or from Southwest Missouri. Anybody who's draft eligible. And for me, it was just taking so much time to do it the right way. I could have easily looked at the draft reports and those type of things, but I'd be doing somebody else's work. And so I just said to the guys in Sirius, look, I'm not going to do it, and I'm just going to really focus on the NFL. I'll look at, obviously, some of the quarterbacks that are coming out in the draft and do a couple of hits, but that's really my focus. I just try and focus on what I know best, and that's watching the NFL each and every week.
Longtime mutual friend of ours, Kevin Stefanski, landed in Atlanta. You have to know he's super excited to have Bijan Robinson, isn't he?
He is, and we exchanged some texts. I was really disappointed to see what happened to him in Cleveland, but as he said to me, hey, this is the business, this is what I signed up for. We're all good. He and I were neighbors in Ocean City, New Jersey in the summertime. Kevin, of course, went to my high school and is from Philadelphia, and just how good a man he is. I'm really excited for him for a couple of reasons. I think going to Atlanta with an owner who's all in, who wants to win right now, and Matt Ryan. I mean, that relationship. Matt was a colleague of mine at CBS, and of course was a great player in the league for a long time. A man of great character and integrity, and I just think that makes some sense. And it's a good football team. I mean, you look at the roster: Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts came on this year, Drake London. You got some good linemen and Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom. I think defensively they have to continue to improve, but they kept the defensive coordinator there. I thought that was important, Jeff Ulbrich. The big question he's going to have is the quarterback position. Our guy Kirk Cousins is still under contract. Michael Penix Jr. is coming off his third ACL repair, and the question marks at the quarterback are always a challenge.
Yeah, I just had an elongated interview with Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch, and with the NBA trading deadline approaching, All-Star break, minds will drift a little bit, and we were talking about like rumors and how they get spread and things like that. That there are many things to really like and respect about Kevin Stefanski. One for me that is super high is he's the last guy. In fact, it's a 0%er that he's going to contact an agent when things are really bad, or contact a member of the media, that is, and be like, hey, Jimmy Haslam, and I don't know this to be true, but like Jimmy Haslam forced Deshaun Watson on us. So how am I supposed to win with this? And then like people go with it and stuff. He's just not that guy,
He's not. I think a lot of it has to do with his upbringing. His dad, who I knew. His dad. I played basketball, went up against his dad in high school. His dad was a coach. So, I just remember, Ed Stefanski, who was the former vice president of, a number of the basketball teams, including the Memphis Grizzlies and I think the Raptors and Sixers. But anyway, I just think he grew up in a family where, coaching, doing the right thing, and all the qualities and intangibles you look for in good people. I think Kevin has that. I think Kevin cares about his staff. I think he cares about his players. I think the players know that and play hard for him. I think you look at the situation in Cleveland the last couple of years. They didn't have the quarterback. They were trying to develop 2 young quarterbacks. Look how hard that defense played last year for them. And, it's tough. We just fired, this is the crazy number, and P, I know you're aware of this, 46 coaches in 6 seasons.
Oh.
That's how many we have fired in the NFL. We've just whacked 10 this year. And they're all getting fired for mostly the same reason. If you don't have the trigger, if you don't have production and consistency at the quarterback position, you're going to get fired. And these owners are less and less patient, and that's just the way it is. And I think Kevin's very aware of that. I think he goes to a situation where he's got to get the quarterback situation figured out. It's a very winnable division. I think the future's bright for Kevin Stefanski as the head coach in our game.
Well, then you get the Buffalo situation with McDermott. I mean, I'm not, it's when you lose that much in the postseason and you can't get over a certain hump. Yeah, they have the right to move on for sure. But when you see the general manager get elevated with his job and like get more power than the coaches out, that just gets a little seedy because he has the quarterback man and Josh Allen. So I guess that one's
they've had 2 Pro Bowl players since they drafted Josh Allen. And just another quick tidbit on Sean McDermott, who by the way is another Philly guy, went to LaSalle High School. Think about this, 98 wins in 9 seasons. His last 7 seasons, he's had 10 or more wins. I mean, in that last 7 seasons, he's had 3 13-win seasons. He's had a 12-win season. He's had 2 11-win seasons. He's had a 10-win season. I mean, they've dominated the AFC East. And, you look at the postseason record, 8-8, but the 4 losses to Kansas City and the 2 in the championship round, 2 in the divisional round, of course, losing to Denver. I mean, I love Josh Allen. You know how I feel about this guy, but he turned it over 4 times. They put the ball on the ground 5 times in that game, and we fired the head coach. That's just the crazy part of our business right now.
MVP's firing bullets. Rich Gannon, former Vikings quarterback, NFL MVP. With Denver and Stidham, how do they make sure players and coaches don't freak out all week or early in the game because there's not the regular guy?
I would suggest that the Broncos won't lose this game because of Jarrett Stidham. They may not win it because of him either, if that makes any sense. I think he's going to be fine. Look, I've known the guy. He spent a year with the Raiders, and so I got a chance to do all the preseason games and get to know him a little bit. He spent a couple seasons in New England. Josh McDaniels brought him to the Raiders. That's how highly he thought about him. And then 3 years ago, Sean Payton actually traded for him. People don't really, they traded for him. He did the research on him. Sean really liked him coming out of Auburn. He's been with the organization for 3 years. He knows the system. He's played well in the preseason. He's only got 4 career starts. He's played in 20 games. But I suspect he'll go out there. The game plan will change a little bit. He doesn't have the creativity and the ability to kind of, make plays with his legs as much as Bo Nix. And so I think some of the off-schedule throws you won't see. But I think Sean's going to build a game plan around what he does well, and they'll take their chances.
Is Sean Payton considered one of the great offensive minds in the history of the game? Not recently, but like in the history of the game, or has his cheating and sometimes arrogant approach to things hampered your opinion?
It's not everybody's cup of tea. I will say that he is really, really good at what he does, not only as a head coach and as a play caller, but I just think his messaging to the football team, people don't always like his press conferences. He can come off kind of brash but once you get to know Sean, he's all in. He's a very likable guy, and he's done an amazing job. Think about this. He made the decision in the organization to move on from Russell Wilson. At the time, it wasn't a very popular decision. This season alone, Russell Wilson has accounted for over 12% of their salary cap, more than any player on the team.
Wow.
But they made the decision, and they took Bo Nix, and they liked him. He's won 24 games in his first 2 seasons in Denver, and led them to the playoffs in each of the last 2 seasons. I just think Sean's done a great job. He's a really, really good coach, and maybe an even better play caller.
What's the coldest outdoor game you ever played in, and how did it go?
So the Tuck Rule game wasn't really bad because, when you get snow, it's not normally,
right.
It's sub-zero type temperatures. It wasn't that bad. It was windy. The quarterbacks, the wind could affect them even more than the snow. I would suggest, and again, I didn't really play in this game. I remember when I was with the Vikings, we played in Cleveland, the old Cleveland Stadium. I think Wade was playing. It was Wade Wilson. I think Tommy was still not playing. But I just remember as my rookie year, I believe, and I stood there on the sidelines, and I absolutely froze. I mean, he was about the coldest I've had ever been. I remember Hassan Jones got frostbite in his toe.
Ooh.
He was really bad. It was really bad. So that would probably be the worst. But you just got to find a way to do it. You got to find a way to put the right clothing on and go out there and cover yourself up where you can and keep your hands warm. And the problem is the ball could be it can be as hard as a rock. I mean, that was the big reason why Brady let some air out of the ball, because you could grip it a little bit better. So I wish I would have thought of that.
Right. Rich spent the first 6 years of his career here with the Minnesota Vikings, then went to Washington when the Vikes went to Jim McMahon. Now, Rich, MVP, you'd only play Minnesota one time the final 11 years of your career. That was in '99 at Metrodome, and you and the Raiders won the game. So, at that stage, did you still want to stick it to the team to let you go, even though it was like a half decade plus later?
Oh, for sure, because I looked over there and I saw Denny Green, who, wasn't the kindest to me. So, I mean, yeah, I think anytime you play against your former team, whether you left on good terms or bad terms, it doesn't really matter. It's your former team. You feel in your heart of hearts that, they don't want you, they didn't keep you, they like somebody better. And I just think that, you want to, I just know, not just myself, but other players, when you get a chance to go against your former team, it's a different week. It's got a different feeling to it. You know what I mean? It's almost like a homecoming game for you. And typically we see players play their best in those type of situations.
Back to the Bills and the Broncos for a second. The Broncos and the AFC title game. The Bills ran really well on that Denver defense, and that could be big for New England, right?
Well, it could be. I just think you look at this Denver defense, and they led the league in sacks, they led the league in pressures and quarterback hits. They got after you. They haven't been as good when it comes to the run. I think when you look at the Patriots, that they've got two backs that are very talented that can slam the ball downhill, and they're a little bit different. You look at Henderson's got a little bit more speed to bounce runs. You look at Stevenson, he's the bigger, more physical between the tackles type back. Both are really good in the passing game, and I would throw in there to Drake May. I mean, Drake May can hurt you with his legs as well. So this is going to be a good challenge. Mike Vrabel has done an amazing job getting that. They were a 4-win team a year ago, and look at their success this year, 13 wins. I think Mike Vrabel will most likely be the NFL Coach of the Year.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. A couple more here for Rich Gannon, former NFL MVP. The Rams better be careful. I mean, it's going to be a tough NFC title game, but don't you think the Seattle defense, I mean, it's dramatically better than Chicago's, right?
Oh, for sure. Look, you look at everyone's talked the last couple of weeks anyway about this Houston defense, but you look at the Seattle defense. I mean, they're the number one scoring defense in the league right now. I mean, they have been dominant. I think when you look at the job that the general manager, John Schneider, has done with player acquisition, whether it's trades, whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft, I mean, this is a really good defense. They come downhill. They can rush the passer. They can stop the run. They've got good speed, good team speed defensively. And, you got what I love is you got the number one scoring offense in the NFL, the Rams at 30.5 points a game, and the Seahawks at the number one scoring defense. They get 17.2 points a game. Something's got to give on Sunday.
All right, Caleb Williams, clearly a huge step for the young man, Rich, this year, but still some key stuff to improve, right?
No question. I think when you go back to last year, I was impressed by a couple things. First, the kid he got sacked 68 times, more than any quarterback in the league last year, and he played in every game. So that showed me some toughness. And then the other thing is he didn't really turn it over much his first year. I think he had six interceptions. So he took care of the football. He held on to it way too long. Ben Johnson comes in. They got that part of it corrected. He got rid of the ball. He did a little bit better. The one thing that they still have to work on, it'll be a big point of emphasis in the all-season program. His completion percentage was the worst among the 33 qualified quarterbacks in the NFL. And even if you look at the game against the Rams, he missed it. He goes 23 of 42. PA, there's 8 or 9 throws where he's throwing the ball downfield on 1st and 10, 5-7 yards over the intended receiver, and he's got a back or a tight end right there in the flat for a 5 or 7 yard gain. And Jerry Burns used to always say, "You never go broke taking a profit." Not every meal has to be, it doesn't have to be the buffet. We can be a little bit more disciplined. I think that's the big thing with him. He's got a big appetite for the big play.
Yeah.
And he has to understand that every play matters in the NFL. He's wasted way too many plays when you go back and look at his body work this year. A lot of improvement, a lot of good things to like in his game, but the completion percentage, not anywhere where it needs to be.
Lastly, Darnold and that oblique only had to throw 12 times against the Niners. How long, from what you know, how long does it take for an oblique to properly heal? And what does MVP think about all that?
Yeah, it could take several weeks. It depends upon the severity of the strain. I thought he went out there last week. I thought they were smart in what they did with him during the week. He didn't have to do much against the 49ers. They dominated the 49ers the last 2 times they played them. Look, I think he's going to be fine. I think there's a number of examples on tape where you see him moving around a little bit to his right, to his left, throwing the football. He's a tough guy. You know that about him. I'm so happy for Sam Darnold. PA, here's a guy who was kicked to the curb not once, but like 2 or 3 times. And, he gets a chance to play for the Vikings last year. He leads a team to 14 wins this year. He's got a chance to play for a trip to the Super Bowl this Sunday.
MVP, you're the best. Thanks for the time. Have a great day.
Love you, brother.
Yep, love you too. Call you soon. See you, bud. Rich Gannon, former MVP of the NFL, former Vikings quarterback. Let's head over to the other in the fishbowl of ultimate team games, hockey and the Minnesota Wild.
It's time to drop the puck.
Just blasted Austin Matthews and Toronto last night. We're going to go north of the border and chat with Radio Joe after this.
Maple Leafs head coach yanking Hildeby, who came in to play this third period, hasn't been beaten yet by the Wild. Toronto, the only 2 goals in the third. Sturm in his own slot finds Tarasenko, another chance in the empty net. He'll hit the red line, floats into Foligno. He's got an empty case for the hat trick. He scores! With 2:38 to go in Toronto, Marcus Foligno with the hat trick, and the Wild have a 6-3 lead.
Hey, Fox. Joe ODonnell on the call last evening. He joins us now. He called the Wild's thrashing of the Toronto Maple Leafs last night on KFAN at Wild Joe Radio for his tweets and the Morning Skate Minute, which undoubtedly comes up later today, previewing tonight on the Fan against Montreal. And Radio Joe joins us now. Joe, would you prefer I call you Joe ODonnell, Joe Radio, Radio Joe, or maybe Budsy? Can you be Budsy for the balance of this interview?
Oh man, whatever works. PA, appreciate you having me on. As long as it's half respectful, I'll be fine with it.
Well, recently I was texting with Alex Staylock, and that's where Budsy comes from. All right.
Yep.
Marcus Foligno. Speaking of old guys, Alex Staylock, Marcus Foligno. When the old guys who stick up for everybody on the ice accomplish something unique, I mean, that just seems so extra special. And Foligno earned the first hat trick of his career last night in his 915th game. That must have been so fun to call.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And as he puts it into the empty net, I start rifling through the game notes because I'm like, this might be his first, and I meant to look it up a few minutes prior, so that's on me for not having been a touch more prepared for that, but it's pretty cool, man. I know he's a fan favorite for a lot of reasons, and inside that locker room, I know what that guy means to that group, and, you look at just the other night, the other day in Buffalo, Quinn Hughes got wrapped up with Kesselrig of the Sabres, and Foligno comes right over to defend him. They get unsportsmanlike penalties. That 2 minutes expires, and they drop the gloves. And that's the type of guy he is. He doesn't need to fight every night, but when he does, it's going to be a heavyweight bout. He's not going to get pushed around out there, and so some nights, Foligno's a guy that might just have 6 hits and a shot on goal. Kill some penalties, and some nights he's going to do what he did last night, which is get to the front of the net and just be an absolute menace for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so good for him. One of the best guys you'll come across, not only on this lineup, but I think across the NHL. He's so well respected. obviously his brother Nick in Chicago is pretty much cut from that same cloth. And to have his dad there last night, and to have this road trip start in his hometown of Buffalo and then move on just north of the border there in Toronto and have him score 4 goals in 2 games and this team win both of them, pretty cool stuff.
I mean, his dad has to make the Montreal game tonight, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, he's having a great time. Those family photos and everything they're putting on social media. Radio Joe, well, it's a road game, and Moose has the hat trick. Were there any hats on the ice after the empty netter?
Yeah, there were a handful of them, which is pretty special too. And I will say this, and it's not going to be a shock to many of the people listening in the great state of hockey, but every single time we're on the road, it's amazing to me the amount of Wild fans that travel. I don't know if some are kind of local, right? They are Wild fans for a different reason, or maybe they moved from Minnesota to where the Wild happen to be playing that night, or they're just traveling hardcore fans. I bumped into some of Damon Hunt's family last night on the concourse. That was a little bit of a dead giveaway, PA, 2 Damon Hunt jerseys in Toronto on the concourse. I'm like, all right, this has got to be family. No offense to Damon Hunt, but he's only got a handful of NHL games, right? So that was pretty cool to catch up with them, including one family member that flew in from Calgary on a red eye to get there. There were a couple Ontario boys and Ben Jones and Hunter Haight on the Wild roster that haven't played a ton in the NHL, and they get a chance to play in their home province. And I'm sure tonight Montreal will be, those Wild sweaters all over the building, and it's really cool to see.
And pretty cool, Tarasenko also was sitting on a hat trick, and he passed to Marcus for his first. It's the little things. I mean, not only in life or sports, but especially hockey, man. It's just the little things that stand out, right?
I think it tells you a lot about Tarasenko. It's twice now this season he's done that. He gave up an empty netter from Nico Sturm to get a goal a handful of weeks back, and I thought Tarasenko last night maybe had, if not his best game in a Wild sweater, his second or third best game. It just felt like he had a little extra step, a little extra juice in the tank. We don't always see that from the 34-year-old, right? He's at a stage in his career where, not that he ever blazed up and down the ice, but he's not often pushing the play offensively. He's a shooter. He's a sniper. He's a good 200-foot player. John Hines has talked about that all year long. Like, you don't have to worry about him cheating the game defensively, no matter where he's at in his career. So he does bring a lot to the table. I thought that was really cool, and he didn't realize it was Foligno's first hat trick. When I had him on the postgame show on KFAN and the Wild Radio Network, I brought it up to him. I said, hey, that was pretty unselfish of you. He tried it the first time for the red line. He missed the net. And so he kind of laughed like, hey, first time I missed, second time I figured I'd give it to him. But he had no idea that was Foligno's first hat trick in 900-plus games. So just the unselfishness of Tarasenko to want to dish the puck to Moose, and for Moose to just be able to tap that thing in and Wild skate away with a doubling up of a really good Toronto team is pretty impressive.
Joe ODonnell, the play-by-play voice for the Wild on the radio.
Fox.
Beloved Budsy at Wild Joe Radio via social media. The Wild is like skating fire extinguishers right now. I mean, they cooled out Buffalo, which you won 15-17, and Toronto was on a 9-1-3 run and just got smashed. Yeah. So, what changed since that Thursday night we saw each other against Winnipeg?
I just think sometimes a team needs to get a little bit of a reset, and you'll hear coaches talk about a PA like you might be on a 5-game winning streak, but at the tail end of that, your game's not perfect. You might be losing 4 or 5 in a row. You need to bottom out. And not that either of those things necessarily happened with the Wild, but it just felt like gave up too many goals in that homestand, situational play, goals against the final shift of a period, goals coming off of face-offs. Maybe took a penalty or two they shouldn't have. And some of that situational stuff is one area that I know John Hines is still hoping this team improves on. Like, what makes you from a good team into a championship caliber team is some of those small details within the game. They weren't really there on that homestand. And sometimes when you lose players, you can you get a little bit of a reality check. Like, hey, if we don't go back to playing the right way, if we don't check up ice properly, if we're not dialed into the system play and the structure, we're going to have a tough road trip, right? Because you look on paper, Wild are missing 3 of their top 4 scorers, 5 of their best players. It's like, okay, it's time to buckle up here, or this could be a long trip. And I feel like the Wild have had that approach. They've caught a couple of teams probably looking on paper, going, oh, this will be an easy night. Minnesota's without some of their stars. And when you check the right way in this league, and you get contributions up and down the lineup, mix in a good save or two, a timely save or two, and do the little things well, you've got a chance to beat anybody. And I think that's what the Wild have done the first two games. They've really played solid. They've gotten pucks in the net. They've gotten bodies in the net. I know those are cliches, but just look at the tape. That's what they're doing right now. And last night they made the Maple Leafs defend a ton. Austin Matthews did not have a huge impact on that game. And when you can play like that on the road, play that greasy game, you're going to give yourself a chance.
Faber and Hughes, they're just becoming so amazing together. I mean, each had 2 assists last night, and we're on the ice for almost all of the 6 goals. I think Hughes 4, Faber 5. Would you deduce that those two are going to play together a bunch for the USA at the Olympics? Because that would be sweet.
Yeah, I think they almost have to. I know John Hines was asked last night by one of the Toronto reporters about it. Of course, he has to defer to Mike Sullivan, the head coach of Team USA. Hines will be on the bench, but I think they'd be crazy to do anything else. Now, with that said, last year in the Four Nations, Brock Faber played with Jacob Slavin of the Carolina Hurricanes, and they were rock stars. I think it speaks to Faber. And really, when you're at a tournament setting like that with great players, playing with great players, like, you could probably find almost anybody to pair up well, but I'd be stunned if game one, if they're both healthy in Milan, that it's not Faber and Hughes. They complement each other so well. They both play with such extreme confidence. What Quinn Hughes has done for this hockey team is hard to put into words. It has been a jolt of energy that seems to have affected everybody. If he makes a mistake, he quickly recovers and usually will go out the next shift and just make an even more dynamic play. And as you said, they're playing almost half the game. And last night, first half of back-to-back, their minutes by their standards are pretty manageable. Mm-hmm. Usually Hughes is 29, 30 minutes a game. Faber's at 28 something. I think they were both in like the 25 or 26 range. And I know it's not a huge drop-off, but leading in the third, the Wild were able to, send them an extra shift or two and playing a back-to-back, which the Wild will be doing tonight. Hopefully that helps them out. Yeah,
that's Montreal tonight on KFAN at 6:00. The Wild have beaten the Canadians 9 consecutive and 17 of the last 18. Are you? I mean, it's a back-to-back, and you're shorthanded with the injuries. Are you expecting a victory tonight?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think it'll come down to, probably one thing, and that's yes for Volstead. All anticipation would be he gets to start in the second of back-to-back. He has struggled a little bit by that lofty bar he kind of set for himself over that 6-week run. Knowing Jesper, the way he competes, the way he practices, the way he prepares. He's gotten a couple of days off now, some time on the ice with Freddie Shabbat, the goaltending coach. I'm thinking he'll be as jacked up as possible for a game, his first ever start at Bell Center. I really think it'll come down to if he plays well, he'll give the Wild a chance. And the way Minnesota's been scoring goals, I'd expect it to be a little bit of a higher scoring affair because Montreal can certainly fill it up. I think they're fourth in the league in goals scored, so should be a fun one. The crowd in Montreal is always buzzing. They respect the game. They know the game so well. They cheer the little things like the fans of Minnesota, which I always appreciate. And I think it should be a fun game. And I think the Wild, if Volstead's ready, certainly have a chance to sweep the trip.
Toronto and Montreal. Is there a different feel in the building when calling games at Original Six destinations?
Yeah, I thought you were actually going to maybe differ the two. And like last night, Toronto, and you've heard this, I'm sure, like, I don't want to say it's a corporate feel because they can get loud, but, those aren't cheap tickets. Those are, the restaurant downstairs costs you a pretty penny to access. I mean, it's kind of high end in Toronto, right? And in Montreal, it feels like, in my experience there, that, that they are, the crowd rises when there's like when Lane Hudson has the puck tonight, if he goes and kind of a Quinn Hughes type rush up the ice, that place will be buzzing. Like the electricity is kind of palpable. Toronto, and to your point, all these Original Six buildings, they are into the game. The Boo Birds won't hesitate to come out. They're on the officials. You see the banners hanging in these arenas, the retired numbers, championships won. It's definitely always a different vibe. The crowd's there early. So that kind of goes for all those Canadian venues, if I'm being honest. But there is a little difference between Montreal and Toronto, and I think a lot of players would tell you and staff members, like Montreal might be the coolest building and the most excitable road building to go to, especially up in Canada, just because of the history and just how engaged the crowd will be. If it's not number one, it's definitely top five.
Have you time for a couple more? Have you had on this trip, Toronto and Montreal? Oh, Buffalo too. So therefore, it's been a quasi-extended trip. Have you had any new personal low rounds of golden tea on this road trip?
Oh, I love how you do your homework.
Thank you.
I did not have success like I would have liked in Toronto. Didn't get in one in Buffalo.
Wow.
I played fairly well in Toronto, but some of the staff here, of course, the morning after will remind me that I may not have been the leader on the leaderboard.
Is there a golden tea tour where, like in the off season, you can actually make money at this?
Well, so here's the deal. This has just been a this year thing. As far as the traveling party, the digital team, social media, TV crew, whoever happens to be out at said establishment, having a burger and drinking water. And the Golden Tee it started the first game in St. Louis. Well, the night before the first game, obviously. And pretty much since then, like if we're in a city and we got a group out, we'll try to find a Golden Tee and play 18. And, there's an all-time leaderboard. I'm probably somewhere in the mix, but I have just one win under my belt, sadly, and I will cherish that moment.
Hey, what's KG, Kevin Gorg? What's Gorgie like on the trip with his Broncos hosting the AFC Championship game?
Well, he's an emotional mess most times when it comes to anything that he has a rooting interest in.
Yes.
Writing them off. Second drive of the game the other night as we're on the airplane heading to Toronto. They have a 13-point lead. He's not confident. Josh Allen's done this before, the whole 9 yards. Then they win. The guy's through the roof in his Broncos hat, and then he finds out his quarterback broke his ankle. So the sun came up for Kevin Gorg.
Yep.
He'll be working the Frost game on Sunday, so he won't have to sweat as much over his Broncos and Jared Stidham, but I think he did, PA. You might confirm this with him. I think he watched a few either YouTube highlights or a cut-up of Jared Stidham at some point. I don't know if it's the 6 NFL passes he's thrown over the last 5 years, but I think he's talking himself into the Broncos at least hanging around on Sunday.
Yeah, I think in Toronto he may have purchased blue and orange calligraphy pens to like write out a Jared Stidham bio just to be ready for this weekend.
Yeah.
And by the way,
well, hey,
go ahead.
I was just going to say he appreciated the tweet by the great Nick Foles and taking a shot at the Patriots, and I as well obviously appreciated that one.
All right, and I know you know this, but Heinze, the coach, John is a Pats fan. So I wonder if KG and the head coach are going to do any trash talking before that game Sunday.
Well, I think they will, because Heinze's kind of sneaky like that. Like, I don't know how he found out. I'm sure I could guess. Like, he knows that I root for the Eagles, and so I'm sure he's on the Gorg radar there with the Broncos thing. So I think today, when we get our little broadcast huddle up in a few hours, I might stir the pot there and get that going a little bit.
All right, Budsy. Great job on the radio last night, man. That sounded like a fun one, and we'll be listening tonight on KFAN. Thank you, Joe.
All right. Thanks, PA. See you, bud.
See you, bud. That's Budsy, Joe ODonnell calls Minnesota Wild games in fantastic fashion on KFAN.
Fox.
And the vast and ever-expanding Minnesota Wild radio network at Wild Joe Radio via X. Follow if you are so inclined. Back to football around the corner. It's KFAN.